Hey, I have a second channel. Cube Comp MTDX.
Hey everybody, I decided to make this video tonight and I think it's highly overdue. I should have made it a long time ago, but anyways, here we are. So I'm going to talk about in this video, let's say if you're selling a computer that you've used, or you're giving it to someone, or you're just giving it away altogether. Whatever reason, the computer is going to change ownership to someone else. I want to express the importance of making sure that you delete content off the computer. And no, that doesn't necessarily mean going through and deleting the items out of my pictures, your my music, your my videos folders, or your my documents. While, I mean, yeah, you can do that, but there's always going to be the risk of having items left over. And there's a lot of folders on a computer, in Windows, for example, where you'll have like temporary files, cookies, cache, things like that. Generally, I always like to suggest wiping the computer and doing a fresh installation of Windows. That way, you have a better chance of clearing your stuff off the computer. That way, whoever gets it in the future doesn't perhaps steal your information or whatever. Because let me tell you, I've gotten computers in that have had personal information, from social security numbers to birth dates to just tax documents, you name it. I've come across computers before that had really sensitive stuff, and no, I didn't have to dig to find it. It was literally like stuff on the desktop, for example. I've come across computers that came from just various origins. Either they were given to me or I bought them at a thrift store. Now, I'm going to talk about thrift stores a little bit in this video. And there'd be times where I would find get computers or hard drives or whatever that had files on them because the drives were never wiped. And had that computer ended up in the wrong hands, it could have been very bad for a person who owned the computer previously. Now, generally I prefer to not store sensitive documents on a computer unless maybe you use a utility like maybe, let's say, 7-zip, something like that, to encrypt those files. But in the event that you go to sell your computer, nowadays it's easier than ever before. It used to be it was nearly impossible to do this, but I always like to suggest doing a clean installation of Windows on the computer, because it used to be back in the day. It wasn't so easy to get hold of a copy of Windows. Now, if it was an OEM system, you would typically have the restore disk that came with the computer, or restore partition on the hard drive, which I never like that, because let's say the hard drive fails and you lose your partition, then then you don't have a way to restore the computer. But even with the restore disk, it was you could restore the computer back to its factory state, but let's say back in Windows XP days, you could have a 6-year-old computer that after restore, and you could have of course 6 years worth of service packs and updates to install. But now, of course, with Windows 8, things got a little easier. You have the reset utility, which, as I've heard on sites recently, that sometimes reset does not work perfectly. Stuff sometimes gets left behind. But with Windows 10, it's now easier than ever to just simply download a copy of Windows 10, and you can actually install Windows 10 on a computer that came with Windows 10, or a computer that came with Windows 8 or Windows 7. And you can, on a Windows 7 computer, you could use the product key that came with the computer to activate the copy of Windows 10 and be good to go. And also with Windows 10 and this modern operating systems like that, from Windows, they're usually pretty good about installing drivers on their own. And of course, back in the days of Windows XP, it was really bad back then. You had to, a lot of times, find drivers yourself, either through your computer's OEM or whatever. But nowadays, it's easier than ever to wipe and reload a copy of Windows on your computer. So, again, like I say, I've seen it so many times. Come across computers secondhand. Either they were just given to me, they got passed down to me, and somehow either I purchased them from someone, or I bought them at a thrift store or whatever, and they of course had files on them. Now I should mention that a lot of times when I purchase a computer or I get a trade-in of a computer, part of the service is to wipe the computer. So I'm not really talking too much in regard to that, and of course in those cases I do inform the client or customers that part of the agreement of getting the computer traded in is I will wipe the hard drive. I will take care of it for you. But again, like I say, I've gotten computers secondhand from like thrift stores and just places like that where the computers were not wiped and they had sensitive stuff on them. So thrift stores in general, it really depends on the thrift store that we're talking about here. Now I can say with Goodwill, at least in this area, Goodwill has what's called the Grid Store, and there used to be Goodwill Computer Works. And the way it worked was computers that got donated to Goodwill, they were taken to these centers where the hard drives were wiped and stuff like that, and data was erased and things like that. But mom and pop thrift stores, small thrift stores like that, they were never all that good with wiping hard drives on computers. I mean, there were several times in the past where I had bought computers at, let's say, Value Village, which is a thrift store that's in this area, and to find computers that would boot right up into Windows and, of course, had the existing installation of Windows and the files. So, and one of the reasons why I'm making this video is of course now we have, of course, Craigslist, Nextdoor, Facebook Marketplace, so many online places to sell stuff locally or ship it or whatever. Of course, that's eBay, for example. But I'm really referring to local. It's easier than ever now to sell stuff locally with, of course, Facebook Marketplace. That's a big one. I've seen computers on there many times where I've seen computers on there many times that you could tell that it was not a clean install of Windows, or it wasn't a fresh restore of the computer itself. It looked like the person went through and just deleted the stuff out of my documents, deleted the stuff out of my pictures, music, videos, and said, "Okay, my stuff is off the computer. I'm good." No, you're not. No, you're not. And in the next part of this video, I'm going to explain why. Okay, so here we're looking at the desktop of the Plexi, and of course you can see I have a lot of stuff on the machine. And as I mentioned, a common thing I've seen with computers that are getting traded, sold, whatever, is the person would go through and delete the stuff into my documents, their pictures, music, videos, desktop, stuff like that. In some cases, I question if this stuff was actually deleted or if it was sent up here to the recycle bin. That's another thing, guys, is of course by default stuff gets sent to the recycle bin unless you do shift delete, and that does a permanent delete. But so here we are looking at the desktop. Now let's pull up my user folder here. And of course we have, the desktop, documents, downloads, favorites, which is, again, this used to be where Internet Explorer would save items. I don't think Edge does this. I could be wrong, but you have these other folders in here again: music, OneDrive, pictures, videos. Now this one right here, this is called app data. Normally that's hidden, so I'm going to just replicate that here, and I'm going to show you how I set it back to default. I just go over to the View tab and I uncheck Hidden Items, and now we're back to default. So you also have the app data folder, and in here you have files, which can be your browser cookies and cache. Be one example. Or you just have files that were saved by programs that are there to help them run properly. Temp is a big one. So you have all these different folders in here, and you can run disk cleanup, which would generally clean up most of this stuff. But like I say, it's stuff that's left in the background. And of course you have your browser information, like for example for Firefox, When this is the app data local folder, this is only one of the several folders. And of course, you got the Chrome information there, which includes your bookmarks, your browser data, stuff like that, even save passwords, things like that. So keep that in mind. So if we go to, for example, roaming, you can just see there's lots of stuff in here that would very likely get overlooked by someone who's not very familiar with how computers store information. So, I mean, one option would be to completely clear out a user account by creating a new user account, of course, as an administrator. Now, of course, I'm not going to completely do this process, but I'll show you where to go on Windows 10. Now, of course, I'm using OpenShell, which is a Windows 7 style start menu. So, you would generally go to Settings in Windows 10, and Accounts, Family and Other Users, and you would add someone else to the PC. And then once you add that account, you would have to set it as an administrator, and then log into the new account, then delete your old account, and that would generally wipe out the user profile. But then again, still not as good as completely wiping and reinstalling a computer. And that's because, for example, software. You may have software installed on the computer that may be licensed for you to use. For example, let's just say Microsoft Office. Now, of course, modern Office has more of a cloud model unless you have, let's say, Office 2016 or Office 2019. But, of course, Office 365 is a little bit different, but there's ways that someone could compromise your information through existing software that's on the computer. I mean, it's possible. It can happen. For example, let's look at programs and features here, and you can see by deleting the user account and creating a new one generally does not remove software. So, another thing is computers store files and your information in folders other than just your user profile. So, for example, we have the user profile, and of course you have the default and public profiles that come with a installation of modern Windows. Think Windows Vista or later. So this is, of course, my user profile, but sometimes you can have files stored in other parts of the computer. Either you had saved them there yourself, or some other program saved them somewhere outside of that user profile. So there's definitely many areas to where stuff could be compromised. If you, let's say if you trade a computer secondhand to someone that you didn't actually wipe and reload Windows on. So the Windows Reset tool, generally I would think it'd be okay, but after hearing reports, I think it's in Windows 11 of Windows Reset not completely wiping data from the machine, I kind of question that. So, like I say, when you go to trade a computer, it's definitely important that you wipe everything off. And again, the best way to do it is to just reload Windows on the computer. There's plenty of YouTube videos out there on installing Windows 10, for example. I do cover installing Windows 10 and other Windows versions and videos on my channel. But of course, there's lots of stuff on YouTube out there to go look at if you need to learn how to install Windows 10. It's, like I say, nowadays, it's a lot easier than it ever has been. So to wrap up, again, it's important that when you go to sell a computer or trade it or whatever, that you know that deleting the items in your documents, your music, pictures, videos, folders, that's not wiping everything off the computer. You can wipe everything off the desktop, you can wipe everything out of your user profile, but there's still going to be traces of stuff left behind that someone with ill intents could use to potentially steal your identity or things like that, or hijack your accounts. And like I say, it's really important you keep this in consideration. because, of course, with modern web browsers, for example, they can store your passwords or even your payment information. Like Chrome, you can, of course, save your payment info. Now a lot of times you will need to enter the PIN number, the security, not the PIN number, but the security code on the back of the credit card or debit card in order to complete a transaction. But still, it's important to know that really the best way, if you're going to sell a computer, let's say buy owner to someone else through Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or anything like that, it's important nowadays, with it being so much easier to do, that you actually just do a clean installation of Windows 10. So anyways, or Windows 10 or whatever version of Windows you're running. So anyways, hopefully this is helpful. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Well, everybody, that wraps it up for this video, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like the video. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the computer channel, and be sure to tick that bell so you'll get notified when new videos are posted. Also, don't forget, I have a whole lot of other interesting videos here on the channel to check out. And also, in addition, I have a second channel, CubeCompMTDX, where I have all sorts of other videos not exactly related to technology. Links to the channels are available at the end of this video. Again, I thank you for your support, and thanks for watching this video.